Alright, now edit history, a very handy thing. It's basically a way for you to see changes that have been made to an object over time. You can see who done it, when they done it, and so on. You can also revert back to previous versions if you'd like to. So edit history is similar to track changes on an object in that you can see those changes and then revert back to that previous point in the object's history. Alright, so there's multiple ways to get to the history of an object. I'll show you a couple ways to get there. But when you do view the history of an object, you're first going to see a window that looks like this. Alright, it's going to give you some information about the object at the top of the screen, and then it's going to tell you each time that object has been modified and saved, the date timestamp of that change, which user changed it, and when you see this little time capsule here, this time capsule means that the change that was made is a change that you can revert back to if you needed to. So it was a change to the content that you could actually revert back to if necessary. Alright, now if you wanted to compare points in history, you would see this screen here. This screen gives you a key to the changes that have been made to your object. See down here we've got green, blue, and yellow. Green for new, blue for deleted, and yellow for changed. So if you do a history compare on your content, Author is going to highlight what's different, and it will highlight it in a certain color so that you know exactly what's changed. Alright, now in some cases you may do a history compare and you don't see any highlighting in the window at all. Now that's because the change may have been made to an object property, not to the content itself. So it wouldn't be something that you would see a preview of in this window. You can actually compare object properties from one history point to another, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment. Let's take a look at edit history. Edit history is also something that is set up in the administrator module. So let's go back to the administrator, open up our library, and history is set up under the settings menu. So settings, history settings. So you're not necessarily going to be tracking changes to objects in your library unless you go here and tell Author what changes you would like to track. Alright, so don't assume you're tracking history in your implementation. Open up your library in the administrator module, check your history settings. So here's all of your options for tracking history. Saving history on an object that has been modified and then closed, change of release date, change of author, meaning one author opened it and worked with it, and then another author opened up that object and worked with it. The template's been changed, or when the object has been modified and then published. Alright, so these are your options for saving history. You can choose any or all of the options that you would like to save history points on. And then as your objects are changed, you can view the history of those changes. Let's go to a new folder here. I'm going to turn on my View Object History. Alright, and as you click on objects, you can see that the history points are changing. So this is a preview window that's showing you object history. You can get to this point from any object also by going to Properties, General tab, View Edit History, and it shows you the exact same thing. Alright, so a couple different ways to get there. You can even just right-click an object and go to History, same thing. So a couple different ways to get you there. Now let's go ahead and create a new topic here. Let's call it History Example and hit OK. Now when I select that object, it is first showing me the date and time stamp that the object was created and who created it. Notice how there's no time capsule here because there's nothing for me to revert back to at this point. But if I open that object up, let's say hi, save and close, I get a history point here. Alright, let's open it up again. By. Alright, I will get another point in time that I can revert back to if I'd like. Now what's great about this is you can select 2 points in time. Let's select the latest change and then the prior change. And you can right click and select compare. And you see the comparison window here. Notice the key at the bottom of the screen. So it's telling you what's happened between these two objects. I can click revert if I'd like to revert back to that point in time. If I'd like to. Am I sure? Yes, I'm sure. And history revert is also a save point changed on that object. So you can select any 2 points in time. They don't have to be adjacent to one another. And do a right click and compare one version from the other. Here's its original state. Here's the state it was in 2 changes ago. You can revert back to the prior state if you'd like to. Alright. And now this object is back to being blank. Alright, so history is a great way for you to track changes on that object. It's also a great way for you to see who's been modifying your object and when they did it. So if you have to point the finger at somebody for messing up your content, you will know exactly who to point that finger at. But again, you have to first turn on Edit History in your Administrator module in order to start using it. It is not necessarily turned on by default.